Now let us discuss about static class members, right? So static class members, already we have discussed who are all called the class members. Okay, so the data and the functions of your particular class will be called as a class member. Let us see what is mean by this static class member. So there are, again, based on that we are going to call two types, right? So static data member and static member functions are called the static class members. So let us see one by one. So first, what is mean by static data member? So a data member of a particular class, if we are declaring them as static, then we should use a keyword static. Right? So if a data member of your class, if it is declared, if we are going to declare a particular data member as static, then it should be preceded by a keyword static. Okay, and then when a variable is declared as static, then the space for it will be allocated. Okay, so for first time when we are declaring a variable as static, a particular static space, memory space will be allotted for it, and its allocation will be throughout the lifetime of the program. Okay, and the syntax for static data member is the keyword static, data type, followed by that variable name. Okay, so previously our normal variable declaration is data type space variable name. It should be terminated by a semicolon. Here the only difference is this particular variable should be preceded by the static keyword. Then what are the properties of this static data member? So it is initialized to 0 when the first object of its class is created. By default, it will be the value of the particular variable will be initialized to 0, right? And only one copy of that member will be created. A particular class can have more than one object also. We have seen, right? So any number of object can be created for a particular class. So all the object will share the same data member, right? And only one time, only one copy of that member will be created. Only one memory location will be allocated for that particular variable. All the object can access that. And then it is visible only within the class, but its lifetime will be the entire program. So the static data member, this will be visible only inside the particular class, but it will be visible throughout the program. So these are the properties of static data member. And then what is meant by static member function? Similar like our static data member, if we are going to assume a particular member function as static, it should be preceded by the keyword static, right? So static, return type, and then function name. Okay, and what are the properties we have? So a static function can have access only to other static members declared in the class. So previously we have seen that any member function will call any member function of a particular class. Even a public member of a class can access the private data member of a particular class. Here, if we are making a particular member function as static, it can access only other static members declared in the same class. So it can access only the static variables of the particular class, right? And then a static member function can be called using the class name instead of using the object, right? So we can call using object dot function name also, but it can be called using the class name also. Okay, so instead of its object, we can call it by using the class name. And then a static member function cannot be virtual. So we will discuss this virtual concept. Okay, so these are the properties of static member function. So remember, static data member and then static member function. So here for variable and the member function, it should be preceded by the static keyword if we are making it as a static, right? So once the static data member has been created, it will be allocated to the one memory location will be allocated for that, right? So it will be visible only inside the class, but its lifetime will be throughout the program. Only one copy of that member will be created, right? So all the objects will share that particular data member only. And then it may be a static variable or it may be a static member function. It will be called using the class name instead of object name, right? So let us see one example program for this. So here just I want to show you the static data variable and static member function. Okay, So here after the header file, here I have created one global variable x, right? So x is the global variable. So just I want to show you the difference. So that is why I have created the global variable of integer type. Okay, and I have assumed the value as 10. So next I am creating the class. So the class name is sum. Okay, so under private mode I am creating one member function. So it is a static member function. So static keyword return type void and the function name is set, right? So just I'm incrementing the variable. Okay, so one variable I have y, I'm just incrementing it, that's all. Okay, and then under public mode I'm going to create two variables y and z. These two variables are static variables again, right? And then I'm going for another static member function called display, right? So another static member function called display. So here you just remember inside the display member function I'm calling the set member function, right? So what is this set member function? It is a static member function. So one of the property is, see, this display member function is also static. A static member function can have access to another static member of a particular class, right? So that is why inside this I can call the set member function. And then in my display I'm just displaying the value of y, right? So this is my class declaration part. And then I'm going for static variable. So see here I'm giving the value for the static variable y. Okay, so int sum scope resolution operator y. So you would have seen this type of definition. So what I'm doing here, usually when we are going to define the function outside the class declaration part, we will be using the scope resolution operator, right? But in this case I'm just defining the static variable. So for that I'm using the class name. So return type of a particular variable and then class name, scope resolution operator, variable name which is equals to 70. So I'm just defining the static variable. Okay, so outside the class declaration part I'm defining it. Okay, so obviously when you are making a particular variable as static, you have to define that particular variable, which means you have to give the value for that particular variable outside the class declaration part. So this is must, right? And then inside the main program, just to show the difference between the static variable and the normal variable, I have used the same variable name y here, right? Y equals to 30. So this is the local variable. Okay, so this y is the local variable inside the main program. Already we have a static variable y. Okay, so inside the class declaration part, and then I'm creating the object. Okay, so for the class sum I have created the object. Then here I'm just using the cout statement, so I have kept it in comment line. So this we will see in program execution. Okay, so we can call like this also. Like this also we can call the object. But since it is a static variable, okay, so without the object, we can call the particular static variable using the class name itself. So the syntax is cout class name scope resolution operator y. So if I give like this, so this is again the call to the particular variable. So the normal variables we won't do, but the static variables we can call it using the class name, right? So here what are the things I'm printing? I'm printing the static variable, I'm printing the global variable y, and at last I'm printing the local variable y, right? So we should show the difference. Okay, so simply to show the global variable I am calling from my main function. So that is why I have printed x value here. Then similarly I have created one local variable y. So this is the local variable inside the main program, right? So just I am printing that local variable. The same way I want to show you that I am calling the static variable, right? So the static variable I have used only inside the class, but its lifetime will be throughout the program. Okay, so and that too the static variable I am calling using the class name, right? So and then I'm going for display function. So you can see that the display function is also a static member function. Either we can call like this. This is the normal function call, right? So here what I'm doing, since it is a static member function, I'm calling it using the class name, right? So class name scope resolution operator I'm calling the display member function, right? So this is one example for static class members. Okay, so we have seen static class member. So the static class members are the data member and the member function. So the static data member and the member function will be preceded by the keyword static, right? And it has some of the properties, right? And it has its own syntax. So I have shown you the example. Okay, now let me show you an execution part for the static class members. Okay, so the example program which we have seen now. Okay, so header file, followed by that I have declared a variable. So you can remember the C programming. So any variable, if we are declaring it outside the main program, we will be calling them as global variable. Okay, so from any part of the program we can call that particular variable. Okay, so then we will be calling them as global variable, or outside of any of the function, even outside the main function, if we declare any variable, it is a global variable, right? So the global variable here is a, and a equals to 10, and then I have created a class. The class name is sum, right? And under private, so there is no restriction for a static class member. It may be private or it may be public, right? So that is why one member function I have declared under private mode. So under private mode I am declaring the member function set, and I have defined it. And under public mode I am declaring two variables, that to the static variable y and z, right? And then I'm going for the display member function, right? So the display member function is also a public member, and it is also a static member. So I have used the keyword static, return type, member function name. So inside this I'm calling the set member function. Okay, so remember, only a static member can call another static member of a particular class, right? So it cannot call any other members of your class. So it can have access only to the other static members of your class. And another thing, you just remember this set member function I have declared under private mode. So which means I cannot call this particular set member function from the main program also, right? So only it can be accessed through the public members of the same class. So this is another rule which we have seen under access specifier, right? So here I have called the set member function, then I am printing the value of y. And outside the class declaration part, see here I have defined the static variable. Obviously we need to define the static variable, right? Otherwise, when the object has been created, the initial value of that variable will be assumed as 0, right? So here, similar like our member function definition, for the variable y, the return type is int, right? So int followed by that class name, scope resolution operator, variable name, which is equal to 70, right? And then inside the main program, here you just see I have created one local variable y. So I want to show you the difference. One y value is local variable, another one is the static variable. So because of that I have created one y variable intentionally, right? And the value of that is 30. And in next line I have initialized the object. Then you just see here, this is the normal variable access with the help of object, right? Object name dot variable name. Like this also we can call. But since it is a static, we are calling using the class name. So the class name, scope resolution operator, variable name. And the global variable a, just directly I am printing. And the local variable also I am printing it directly. Then I want to call the static member of your class display. So class name, scope resolution operator, display function, right? So let me execute this particular program. Okay, so wait. Here, let us give end line so that all the output will be printed in new lines. Okay. Okay, can you see the output now? So what is the first output? It is 70. Why? Because in the program, first we are calling the static variable y. So the value of the static variable is 70. And then I'm calling the global variable x. The value of global variable is 10. And then I'm calling the local variable y, whose value is 30. And finally, I'm calling the display function, right? So here the value has been printed as y equals to 71, right? So let us see what is this display function. So inside the display function, we are calling the set function again. So what is the set function? Inside the set function, just we are incrementing the y value. What is the static variable y value? The static variable y value is 70. You can see here, right? So the 70 will be incremented to 1 in y plus plus, right? And then, so if we print the value of y, it is 71, right? So that is what we have printed here. Is it clear?